Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to set up and trigger special effects to spice up your virtual production in Unreal Engine and Aximmetry. So I'm going to start out with the flamethrower effect, and for those of you who would like to follow along, you can go ahead and download the Realistic Starter VFX Pack Volume 2, and this is a free asset pack on the Unreal Engine Marketplace. And as always, I will leave a link in the description. Once you have downloaded the asset to your project, let's start up the Unreal Editor for Aximmetry, and now you should have the Realistic Starter VFX Pack Volume 2. And as you can see, I have prepared a virtual set here for a dummy brand, and if you would like to know how to build these sets with nothing but free assets, don't forget to check out my video on it. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually rename this folder to just simply VFX, because I'm actually gonna add all my VFX into this one folder. So let's open it up, and I'm going to create a new blueprint class, actor, and I'm going to call it BP Flame. And before we open it up, here in the particles folder, you can check there is a fire folder, and here there is a P flamethrower particle system, and this is using the legacy Cascade particle system, not the Niagara, and it is fine, you can still use it. So I'm going to head back to my blueprint here and gonna double click on it, and I'm going to add a particle system Cascade because the flame is using the Cascade, and I'm going to click on it, and now I'm going to search for the P underscore flamethrower. There you go. And as you can see, you can already see the effect. Next, I'm going to add some sort of base underneath the particle system so it doesn't look like it's just spawning from thin air. And again, I'm going to be using these meshes from the Supergrid pack, which is also a free to download pack that I use to build my virtual set. I will leave a link in the description. So I'm just going to grab a cylinder here, drag it in there, and I'm just going to make it like really small. So it just looks like there's something spawning the particle. And I'm just gonna leave it there, and I'm gonna make this like really small, maybe 0.2. Okay, maybe that's still too big. 0.1. There you go. And I'm gonna put it underneath where the flame is spawning. Actually, maybe I'll leave that to 0.2. And I'm going to duplicate this. So duplicate. And this one, I'm going to make it lower, and it's going to be a little bigger, maybe 0.5. There you go. And you can add some color to this cylinders here. And I will be using the paint from the material pack from the Automotive Materials free assets. And again, this is the paints that I'm using for my virtual set. So I'm just gonna drag this black car paint here, and that should be good. Hit compile. And now I can place this BP flame into my set. And now what I want to do is add the script to the blueprint so that I can turn it on and off later on in Aximmetry once I import this virtual set to it. So I'm going to go back into the blueprint BP flame and go to the event graph, and we are going to add a Aximmetry trigger. And I'm going to name it Flame IO. For in, out, or on, off. Okay. And next, I'm going to find an event to trigger, and event begin play, hook it up, and create a new event, custom event, and I can name it the same thing, Flame IO. There you go. And now I can hook it up to a flip-flop because I want to be able to turn it on and off. So A, it will turn on or off, and B will turn on or off. So like a switch. And now I can drag the, well, I can compile it first and then drag the particle system and search for activate. And this will activate the particle system. So A, activate, and now I can look for deactivate. And now I can hook up the B to it. So, okay, now I have my switch, activate and deactivate. And now what I need to do is turn off the auto activate. So select the particle system and search for auto active and turn it off. Compile and save. And now let's test it out in Aximmetry. So I'm going to save all and cook content for Aximmetry DE. Alright, so I've successfully imported my set into Aximmetry. Everything is working fine. I have my talent here in the middle. And now I have this pin called Flame IO, which is a trigger for the Flamethrower VFX. I'm going to drag it to the side here so that I can have the trigger on the dashboard. And now I can test it out. And as you can see, it is working perfectly. Click, turns on, click it again, it turns off. Now, I guess the only problem here is that it is actually really big. Let's see if we can scale it down a bit. All right, so back to Unreal Engine Editor, and I'm going to go back to my BP Flame and just sort of turn back on the auto active here so that I can see what's going on. Go back to the set, and yes, it is really big. So first of all, I'm going to just like try and select this BP Flame and just scale it down like 0.5. So this makes more sense for the size of the base. And I'm going to drag these down. There we go. And so that did scale it down a little bit, but as you can see, the flames are like way too high. They're still flying off really high. So you can actually mess around with some of the parameters inside Cascade. And we're going to just like peek into it right now. So I'm going to go back into the BP Flame and select the particle system, and I'm going to search for my flamethrower. And I'm going to double click it. And just in case you guys want to keep the original, you guys could just like duplicate this and name it like P for particle system and call it just flame. All right, so now we're going to mess around with this one. I'm going to replace the flamethrower here. So it's using the P flame now, compile. And so now, just in case you want to revert back to the original, you still have it. So I'm going to double click this. And this has opened up Cascade. And just as a disclaimer, I am no way a professional or an expert in using particle systems, but I just know the basics so that I know how to sort of like adjust particle systems that I want to use, such as size or color and those kind of basic things. I'm just going to set the field of view here so that I can see the whole flamethrower thing going on. And actually, I want to turn off a few things. Actually, I don't really want the smoke or the sparks. I just want to use the actual flames. And if you want to focus on some of the elements, you can turn off some of them. So for example, like fire main. So that's the main one over here. So you know which particles spawners is which, and you can work on some of them independently if you want to focus on it. So just like turn it off. So you can see that this base one is the source, the blue one over here, and that one is actually fine. The one that's really big is the fire main. So let's see if I can like scale it down a little bit. Let's click on the spawn here. This is the burst scale distribution, and here is the initial size, start size, and let's see if I can play around with these. Let's see if I can turn this down to half size. So 25 to 30. That will make it everything a little smaller. And this one, like min, like maybe like 75 and 25. Okay, so that made the flame slimmer, right? And Now I think I don't want it to fly off like so high, so I think that has to do with like the initial velocity over here. So start velocity, I'm going to try to change the min and max to, again, half of it. So from 500 to 250 and from 1000 to just 500. Again, I'm not an expert in particle systems. I'm really just sort of like using my logic, like, okay, how fast it's flying off, it's probably velocity. I want like less particles, that's probably the from the spawner, and so on. So I just try and find what works and fill around with it, and just like see here in the viewport what each property is affecting what part of the particles. So as you can see now, we have a much smaller flame, right? It's not so scary. And again, like if you guys want to fill around some more with it, if you feel like this is still too big, you can like turn down the velocity some more. All right, and that is how you create a flamethrower VFX for your virtual set. And before you cook it, don't forget to turn back off the auto active. For the next effect that we are going to do is the Pyro effect. Well, it's called Pyro, and it's one that's been seen in many virtual sets in the marketplace. And this time, I'm not going to go to the Unreal Engine marketplace. All I need to do is actually go to my plugins and turn on the DMX plugins. And you have to restart your engine for this. All right, so now I'm going to split my content browser here into two so it's easier for me to drag and drop stuff. So here I have my VFX folder, and over here I'm going to search for the Pyro particle system. So type in DMX and find this folder called DMX fixtures content. If it doesn't show up, make sure that in your settings you have this show plugin content ticked on. So we're going to go into the Pyro folder, and a few things that I want to grab from this folder is this mesh cold spark module, because this is going to be the base for the Pyro effect particle. And I'm going to copy it here to my VFX folder, and I'm going to copy also the particle system, which is this one, VFX cold spark stream. And I'm going to drag it again and copy it to my VFX folder. And now, instead of making a new blueprint for this Pyro effect, I'm just going to copy this one because there's no need to repeat creating the nodes for the trigger. So I'm going to duplicate this and call it BP_Pyro. Double click on it to open it up, and I can delete everything that's in it, and I can drag in my cold spark module into it and my VFX cold spark stream. And next, in the event graph, I need to make sure that I change the trigger name to Pyro, because otherwise it will conflict with the Flame IO. You can change the event if you want. If you don't want to, it's fine. And now I need to grab my VFX cold spark stream here and hook that up to the activate and deactivate. And that's done. Compile and save. And now, as you can see, I have a second pin here, Pyro IO. And I can bring that to the dashboard again and try out the trigger. And now, as you can see, everything is working nicely. I press it once, it turns on, and I press it again and it turns off. Now again, it's maybe slightly too big for you, and there's an easy way to adjust this. Back inside the BP Pyro, select your VFX, and you will see the details panels on the right. And you can turn on auto active for now so you can see what's going on. Back a bit, and actually, because in the Niagara system, the person who prepared this effects actually exposed a few parameters, and there is a density scale and a velocity scale over here that you can play with. So try, like, for example, 0.5 and 0.5. And now you have a much smaller Pyro effect. So please play around with this until you get your desired result. All right, so the last effect we are going to make is the Fireworks, because which client does not love fireworks, right? So I'm going to go back into my plugins folder, DMX fixtures content here, and find a folder called Fireworks. And this time I'm just going to copy the BP Fireworks Launcher blueprint into my VFX folder. Copy it, and now I have it here, and I'm just going to rename it like Fireworks, so as to not confuse it with the original one. And we're going to open it up, and you will notice right away that this is a very complex blueprint with functions, lots of variables and whatnot, because this is actually designed to be used with DMX, but we are not going to be using DMX. We just want a simple trigger to, fire these fireworks in our virtual set. So we're just going to customize it a little bit, or I dare to say we're going to dumb it down a little bit, simplify it a little bit, and we're just going to delete this DMX component here, and I'm going to delete this on data received. I'll just delete all that, and what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to right click and just get Aximmetry trigger, because that's what we want to do. There we go, and I'm going to name it Fireworks, and by an event trigger and event begin play. I'm going to create a custom event. And this custom event is going to trigger the fire shell. All we want to do is trigger this fire shell function, and it's right here. I'm going to open it up a little bit, and I'm going to grab this fire shell node, and I'm going to skip all these nodes, and I'm just going to go directly over here into the spawn actor BP fire shell. I'm going to just I'm not going to need any of these. And actually, I don't even need this input for the DMX. I'm just going to grab the execution pin, disconnect this, and hook it up to the spawn BP actor. So now, every time we press this fireworks trigger and Aximmetry, it's gonna trigger this custom event, this fire shell function. And what it's doing is that it will spawn a BP fireworks shell, and this is located into the systems in the plugins folder. We don't need to mess around with it at all. And what it's going to do, it's going to add it to a fireworks shell array, and it's down here. And I'm going to delete this DMX tick, and I'm going to change it with just the regular event tick. Okay, so and that's actually all we need to do. The only thing I got to make sure, I need to select this BP fireworks self and make sure this start with tick enabled is turned on. And now you will notice that there are a lot of parameters here. There's like fireworks settings, and this is pretty self-explanatory, like how high you want the fireworks to fire, and like the detonation time. And so maybe I'll set the detonation time to something like 3, and you can change the type of fireworks you want, like a crossette, chrysanthemum, and all that, and the trail type and all the different colors here. So you can play around with these until you get the desired result. So I'm going to compile this now, and I have errors here. It says fixture patch, yada yada yada. You can like click this, and this way it will take you to where the error is. And I don't actually need all this. I'm going to delete that. Where's the other error? Is that it? Okay, so if there's nothing else, just click compile. There are no more errors, so that's good. And now all I have to do is drag in the blueprint of the firework onto my virtual set. And I'm going to drag these way back, because otherwise it's a fire hazard. So maybe something like maybe 5,000 all the way back. And I'm going to make duplicates, maybe one to the left side and maybe one to the right side. And you can you can have different types of fireworks for each of these, because you can just select them and select the shell type, so you can have different fireworks for each. Like this one can be a crossette. So I have 3 different type of fireworks here. And now let's test it out in Aximmetry. So File, Save All, and Good Content for Aximmetry. Alright, so I don't have my input pin here yet. If you don't see it, make sure you hit this red icon. Now it shows up. Hook it up to the side. Alright, and let's test it out. Woohoo! And we have fireworks. I'm gonna set my camera back a bit so we can see what's going on. Let's try that again. And apparently my fireworks are not detonating. And that is because I forgot to hook up the delta seconds here in the BP Fireworks blueprint into the function. So, you know, it didn't detonate because it doesn't know when to detonate. So now that I have done so, I should compile and cook my project again and it should work. Let's try it out again. And we have detonation. All right. And of course, you guys can play around with your settings to get the best possible positions for your fireworks, play around with the colors, the velocity, and all that. And so we're done, guys. That's how you can add some VFX to your virtual production. Here we went through making the flame and the pyro and the fireworks. And so that is all there is to it. I hope it was useful. And if you guys want to request any tutorials in particular, feel free to write it down in the comment. If I do possess the knowledge and the know-how, I might make a tutorial on it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.